All right. Good morning, everyone. Hey, guys. I'm here with Scott Taylor, aka Ghost of Zeon. Hey,
Hi
Scott.
everyone. How are you? Okay, everyone.
Very good. This morning, it's actually morning here. We're usually doing these interviews at night, so it'd be nice to be able to do this in the morning. A little bit more fresh.
Yeah,
Currently, I'm still a little bit sick, though, so my voice may sound a little bit odd, but
that's
yeah,
right. I've
this is
had the
episode
I've had
six
the flu
of
too,
Builder
mate. So yeah,
Interviews. What's that?
I've had the flu as well, mate. So I'm getting over it as well.
Well, hopefully we'll be okay. We'll try to get through it anyway, I
Yeah,
suppose.
no worries. Yeah.
Yeah, I've felt perfectly fine. It's just like my voice and just been coughing a lot. So people have been noticing in my videos, like, oh, hope you get well soon. Feel fine. Anyway, so yeah, we're gonna talk about all that Scott does. He's a very busy guy. It's kind of a lot of different stuff going on. So yeah, all you Aussie guys probably are well aware of who he is. Guys in the rest of the world are probably aware of who you are, maybe more so by your handle, the Ghost of Zeon. Uh, First of all, where did you get that name? How did that name come about?
It's actually a name of an episode of Zeta Gundam.
Okay.
I think it's like episode 25 or something around that area. It sort of came about because I do like Zeon. So anyone who follows my stuff knows that I like Zeon because I'm always building Zakus and stuff like that. I always get picked on because I'm building Zakus all the time.
Mm.
But and I was always one of them people that was always around, but no one sort of took much notice. So I was like a ghost. So it just sort of fitted in.
All right.
that's how it come about. So and it just sort of I just like the name. It was pretty cool. So I thought I'd just go with
Yeah,
that.
for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
it works. It's a cool name. So you were watching Zeta, and like that episode came up, and you're like, oh, that name will work for me, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. So yeah, so you've been, I know you've been in the community for a while. I mean, even long before I was uh, making videos.
Yeah.
I had seen your videos and stuff online. So, and I know you also do quite a lot of non-Gunpla stuff, especially like cars and dinosaurs, other model kits as well. So can you explain, just sort of talk about how you first got into model making, when that was, and how
Well,
that happened?
when I was a kid, I actually I was given I think it was a Tomcat, something like those sort of old Airfix sort of planes, and I just stuck it together, glued it together, and that was it. Didn't do much with it. Didn't think much more of it. Then about the time Jurassic Park, the first one, came out, so that was like early '90s.
Mhm.
Lindbergh, I think at the time, released kits based on the movie Dinosaurs, and I got a couple of them for Christmas one year, and I thought they were pretty cool. Put them together. Didn't think much more of it, and then probably mid 2000s, would have been about 2004, 2005. I was actually working for a Japanese company here in Australia, and at the time, because I've always liked anime and all that sort of stuff, so I was watching Dragon Ball, all those sorts of shows. I grew up around, we had Robotech at the time, so properly Macross,
Yeah.
but we had the Robotech version here in Australia, that sort of stuff, and Astro Boy and that sort of things, and then it moved on. I got into Evangelion and Dragon Ball, and then graduated up to like Gundam.
Mhm.
And at the time, I was working for this Japanese company, and there was this guy who was the direct supervisor for me in the factory I was working at, and he was into big into Gundam, but he also was into modelling as well. But he was more like a snap builder, and he just sort of collected them. And I was just talking to him about it one day, and then I started Googling it, and I found a few interesting pictures online, and it just sort of ballooned from there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I've actually, that's actually kind of interesting because I think that just going back to, you're talking about the Jurassic Park models, I think that was probably the first model kits that I ever owned as well. Of course,
Yeah.
uh,
Well, afterwards, I realised I did a bit of research on them. There's only, I think it was about 7 or 8 in the series, but
yeah.
3 or 4 of them were actually released in the 1960s. And
Really? Whoa.
they've been reissued and retooled that many times. And you can still get them today, but they're
Wow.
under totally different names and brands. People keep rebuying the molds and the designs. The only
Wow.
ones that were actually specifically for that Jurassic Park series was the T-Rex and the Brachiosaurus and the Dilophosaurus. Whereas the
Okay.
other thing was the Stegosaurus and the Corythosaurus, and there was another one. They were a part of the old Lindbergh line, which goes right back to the Pyrolife, real ancient 1950s, 60s kits.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, I had the T-Rex and the Dilophosaurus, I believe. So I think both of those were new ones.
Those ones are collector's items now, so if you can get hold of them, they're worth a bit of coin.
Oh, really? I suppose the new in-box ones probably. I think mine were, I remember, I think my dad did most of the painting on them. I think I just kind of helped sort of put them together, but I was not really as interested in the time. At that time, I would have been like 6 or 7, something like that. So, I had a whole bunch of the Jurassic Park toys. I was interested in playing with the toys, not like this just plastic model was not quite as interesting for me, right?
Yeah, I was about 12 around then, so I'm probably a bit older than you.
Maybe where you can start to appreciate the model building aspect of that a little bit more.
Yeah,
I guess. But
that's right. Yeah.
So you had been building that stuff. So did you paint those kits? You said the first one you didn't paint, but then
no, the dinosaurs were the same. I just sort of glued them together and they sat up on the shelf, on the display shelf with all the other dinosaur stuff I had, because I'm still mad keen on dinosaurs, but there was like any other boy, I was mad keen on dinosaurs then too. Yeah. So I just glued them together and stuck them on the shelf. And actually, there's a couple of them I pulled out years later when I forgot all about them. And then one day I was working on some Gundam stuff. And I thought, oh, hang on, I've got those dinosaurs somewhere. Actually, I think I've got one up here, just above me. Yeah,
one of the real old ones.
That's one of the real old ones. That was one I got when I was in the early 90s when I was about 10 or 11.
Huh.
He sits on the shelf up here. One day I'll finish him. There's a couple I dug out and I fixed them all up and painted them all up, just as that was the first dinosaurs I really got into before I started doing the full-on resin stuff and then get hold of the Tamiya stuff and the new Pegasus hobby stuff. So,
yeah. Cool. Well, so then you started your channel. What year would that have been?
The channel was a bit later. The website itself, which unfortunately I don't have time to update anymore, so it's about 3 or 4 years old now. I haven't updated it because everything gets updated on Facebook now because it's so easy. Just upload a gallery to Facebook instead of sitting there on your HTML programming the web page and everything like that. The web page itself is the first version was 2006, and then I updated it around 2007, and then it just went from there. The channel was about 2010, I think. It was around the time we had our first GBWC, which was back then. So it was around that sort of time frame I started doing videos, just before that so it would be early 2010 the channel started.
I'm glad you mentioned about the GBWC. That's another thing I definitely wanted to ask you about, because I know that now you're kind of well involved. I don't know exactly to what extent, but I know you're definitely involved with GBWC. About how involved were you when it first came over? Were you helpful in that?
When it first sort of started, it was actually, as you probably know, it's run in Australia by Hobbyco, which is the importer of Gundam in Australia, and they approached the guy that runs Hobbyco, which is a very good friend of mine, Ryan, and they approached him to run one, and they gave him 3 months notice, I think it was. So it was a pretty throw together thing, but we all come together as a big community and supported it, and we ended up, they had to bring in extra tables to put our models on the tables for their very first one because they weren't expecting such a huge response from all of us.
Oh, really?
And just from our initial sort of helping from behind the scenes and trying getting everyone in, there's quite a few of us that sort of wedged our way into running the actual show alongside. And as you probably seen from some of the videos, I've sort of taken over the role as MC at some of the awards and stuff at the end of the last couple of years. So,
sort of an adjunct employee of Hobbyco.
Yep.
Yeah. So is that from that first GBWC? That is when Gunpla Builders Australia started as a group? Or that was a little bit later.
Well, Gunpla Builders Australia, at the time we had Gundam Australia, which was a totally different group run by totally different people, and that's sort of a few political issues happening that we sort of separated. And as we separated, we created, at the time it was called Gundam Forum, and then I sort of got involved, and we sort of turned it around and turned it into Gunpla Builders Australia as a forum. And then because the way the internet works now, people don't use forums much anymore. So we just transferred it over to a Facebook group, and we've gone from that to being the largest group in Australia. So,
yeah, definitely. And I know you, I mean, it was
oh, you're dropping out there, Zach.
helps. Oh, can you hear me?
You're frozen up a bit. Hang on.
Is it okay? No?
Yeah, it's back again.
Okay. All right. I was just saying that I think 2 months ago it was that I interviewed Alan, talked to Alan,
Yep.
and I know
Yeah,
he helps.
I've known Alan for a long time, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. You guys are close, and
we're
he's
pretty
in
close
the
mates,
group as well.
Yeah.
How did you first meet Alan, anyway?
We actually was at Model Expo, which is a big IPMS run show in Melbourne. It's run every June, second weekend of June. We have a public holiday for the Queen's birthday. It's the second Monday, I think, every June, and that 3-day event we have. And it's just models. That's not just Gundam; it's everything. So it's military, planes, cars, tanks, like absolutely everything you can think of there.
Sure.
And the first one I went to was 2007. And I just found it by chance online. I thought I'll go there and have a look and see what the deal is. And I entered a couple of models, and I got a commended award for the first one. It was actually, if you remember, you go through some of the older ones. It was the camphor that's pulling off the GM's head.
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen it. Yeah,
it's a real old one. Yeah, I did it like 2007.
It's on your website, right?
Yeah, it's on the Facebook page and on the website, and it's on everywhere. I took that one down. I got a commended for that, and I got a couple of extra little ones I put into the Gundam category. And as we were leaving that day, on the final day of picking up, I was packing up, and Alan came over and said hello to me, and that's when we first met, and that was the start of a interesting friendship.
Hey, he's an interesting guy. Awesome. Yeah.
We were hanging out yesterday. We had a build meet yesterday. We're hanging out at, so yeah.
Oh, cool.
You told me a few things. To hang shit on you about, so I don't know if I should or not.
Oh, all right. No, sure. Of course. So you're also involved in meetings. I think I talked to them about that, the build meetings that they do. So you usually join that as well?
We've got a separate one. I do join them occasionally, but I don't go down every time they have a meet. But we have ones. We have a model shop at the edge of Melbourne called Andrew's Hobbies, and they run build meets once a month. And I'm actually doing tutorials and stuff there. And most of the community that involved, not just us as Gunpla Builders Australia, but other groups and clubs from around Melbourne come to this model shop, and we just all hang out and we just build models and talk and teach each other stuff and do demos and things like that. And I do that once a month, do airbrush demos.
Yeah, so I know like one thing that I know that you do quite a lot of is like leading these demos and giving talks, and of course all of your tutorials and stuff. I think I'd have to go and actually like count through like some of your videos, but I'd say probably the majority of your videos on YouTube are all mostly tutorial kind of stuff as well, right?
They are, yeah. I throw in slideshows and things like that just as another place to put the models on the web so people can see them. But the whole point of the channel I do is to cover events, so like Model Expo and Gunpla Builders World Cup, but also to do the tutorials. And that was the main driving factor to start the channel. I had the text-based tutorials on the website, but people get bored reading, and they still get bored watching. But like, it's easier to watch a video than it is to read a long script. And if you can actually see it demonstrated in front of you rather than just following pictures, it's a lot easier. So that was one of the driving reasons why I started the channel, was to create just a sort of an all-encompassing place where anyone can just come and get tutorials and learn from them.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, before we started, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with your channel and stuff just because of finding the tutorials and stuff.
Yeah, a lot of people do. I usually get a lot of comments. So I go to shows and things like that, and people come and say, "Oh, I know you." They find it. They don't know who I am at the start because they rarely see my face. But they come up and say they realise who I am. They introduce themselves, and they usually say, "Thanks for the tutorials. That's really helped me," and that means a lot to me personally, because when I was first starting out doing this, trying to learn it, I'd go online and I'd be asking questions, and I would never get an answer. I would be constantly told, "Go search for it. Go away, go search for it." And that got to me a bit, and I thought, someone's got to be able to do that. So that's when I thought, no, I'm going to start doing tutorials, and if anyone wants help, I'm here to help them. So from the point where I never got the help that I needed from as I was learning, I've turned that around, and I'm trying to give back the help to the people that are trying to learn now.
Yes, I know, like, on the other hand of that, though, I know just from my experience, whenever I do tutorials, which is not as often as I'd like, but I know that doing tutorial videos compared to other videos usually leads you to get a lot more questions.
Yes. Yep.
So, I mean, I know you said like you want to help people a lot, but do you ever get stressed by people asking a lot of the same questions?
Sometimes.
All the time.
Sometimes. It's sort of like, I'm glad that I'm always happy to help anyone. Anyone's got any question, doesn't matter what question it is. No question's stupid.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you get 10 people in a row in the last half an hour ask the same question, and they can't be bothered to just scroll through just a little bit, that's all right. But I'm still happy to answer every question. There's no worry at all. Yeah.
Hang on just a second, Scott.
You're right.
Come on. Sorry about that.
That's all right. I've got mine too.
No, just because we had just finished breakfast as well. Got some medicine for my whatever is wrong with my throat. Went to the doctor yesterday and tried to do the whole thing in Korean, which is fine, but that means I didn't completely understand his diagnosis. But he just said, "I'll give you some medicines." I said, okay. So I mean, yeah, like I said, I know just from my experience that whenever you do tutorials, tutorial videos lead to getting a lot more question messages and stuff like that. And I know just being busy, yeah, you want to answer everyone. I'm the same way. Like I don't really consider any questions stupid. There are some questions that I would put very close to that borderline of stupid, but just, yeah, like I want to answer everyone, but at the same time, like I'm just really busy.
Yeah,
and so like, that's how it is.
It's like the same issue sometimes. You get that busy, but I try my hardest to answer every single question I can get on Facebook and on YouTube and on email. And yeah, some days and I get a ton, and other days I won't get any. But I try in all my videos and tutorials, I always make sure to try and be as clear, as concise as possible to make it as simple and easy for everyone, because there's a lot of tutorials out there that just say, this is how you do it, and they do it, but they don't explain the full steps. They don't say, I'm going to do this. They just go, here's what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to do it. They don't explain what the product is, what type of product is, how to use it, etc. So I try to cover a lot of that stuff in the video, which does lower the amount of questions that are asked, because a lot of the simple questions can be answered before they're asked by just making a proper video.
Yes, yeah, I think that's a really good point, because that leads a lot of people to have a lot of questions, because a lot of tutorials will show like, here's how you, like, for example, here's how you do top coding, but I think then people will still have a lot of questions because they still need the information of like why you do the top coding, what exactly top code is, and what exactly it does, things like that. So
yeah, an infamous one we've got floating around that was a bit of a joke between a few of us is the primer. There was a few issues Alan had, I think, on his channel about primers, and people getting a bit antsy about what primers are for and what they're used for and why should you use them, etc. And it's a bit of a joke we've got going, but the same sort of thing. People don't understand that a lot of primers are used to create just a same color base over everything, so everything's the same color, because different color plastics are going to affect different color paints. So if you make everything a gray or a black or whatever, everything's going to be the same. There's not going to be any tonal shifts or stuff like that. And it also helps the paint stick to the plastic better. And a lot of people they don't understand, but at the same time, if it's explained in videos, then it shouldn't be any issue.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the one thing that a lot of other people who do tutorials maybe don't go over that kind of aspect of that. I just want to quickly mention here that Jim is watching in the comments and asked how you first got into paleo modeling. I don't know if that's a joke or not.
That's the dinosaurs. That's the dinosaurs. So that's what I was saying about earlier. I got given the Jurassic Park kits when I was a bit younger, and got into that. And it sort of ballooned from there. And that's what I dug them out years later and got into the started getting into the resins, and then there's a few plastic kits from Tamiya and Pegasus
Basically,
Hobbies.
basically,
Yeah.
Jim, just go back and watch the
At
earlier
the very
part of this
start, I'll
video.
explain all of that. Yeah, but basically, I loved dinosaurs when I was a kid, and then model kits come out when Jurassic Park came out, and that's where it started.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so I really love your tutorials as well, and a lot of people do too. One thing I wanted to ask about your tutorials, just because I know when it comes to like wanting to do tutorials or like tutorials that I eventually get to, sometimes like I'm trying out, like I want to try some technique on a kit that I'm doing, and so I think some people will probably want to see this, but I don't know if I really want to shoot a tutorial for like when I'm trying it for the first time, because I don't know how it's going to turn out. It'd be better for me to do it later, but then again, it's a technique that I don't think I'm really going to do all that often. So I think like, should I do a tutorial or not? So like when it comes to you doing your tutorials, do you kind of have that same kind of thought process, or you think just
Depends
anything?
on what depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes I've done something years ago, and then I thought, oh, hang on, I've done that before. While I'm doing it again, I'll film it next time. Quite a few, and then there's quite a few of them that I've just done. I've done a couple of little pieces. Go, oh yeah, this is easy. I'll just do a tutorial on it as I'm working with the rest of the piece. Stuff like the one I did on the weathering with the pencils and stuff like that. I've done that practice on a few different pieces first to get it all right, get the right strokes and that sort of stuff on with the pencil, and then for the rest of the piece, then that's when I got the camera out and did a tutorial on it, because I thought it's an interesting tutorial and I've seen it done before on tanks and things like that. I might as well transfer it across to Gundam and do a tutorial on it as I'm working, and that way 2 birds 1 stone sort of thing.
Is there anything that you haven't done a tutorial on yet that you're really looking forward to making a tutorial for?
There's lots of things.
Yeah,
there's lots of things I've done. I've got to do a few on just different painting techniques and things like that. I've got one I'm going to probably do soon on doing camo patterns again. I did an old one years ago on the website, still there, I think, with text and all, but with using blue tack to do camo patterns. But I was doing the demo yesterday at Andrew's Hobbies, and I demonstrated a camo putty, a masking putty that I've got coming out on this little dude here.
Yeah, I saw the photos posted
yesterday. Saw the pictures, yeah. So I'm probably going to do a tutorial on that soon too, just to just show how easy it is to just do camo patterns, because a lot of people do camo either freehand or they got masking. But I'll show probably do a tutorial on blue tack method for that soon. Just things like that, because I've covered most of the majority of the basics and things like that. So I'm just going to go into the more, the niche stuff now.
Obscure kind of things that
maybe
not everyone will be interested in, but some people will catch that.
Will, yeah. And I always try to make sure it's interchangeable, because I'm predominantly building Gunpla. I'll try to make everything interchangeable with Gundam. So a lot of military stuff people don't realize. The thing with Gunpla is it's an open slather, so you're not shoehorned into one type of thing. So if you've got a tank, you have to paint it like a tank. You can't, or you can paint it however you want, but a lot of people get their nose out of joint if they're painted like a car. It's like, oh, well, that's not right. But if you paint a Gundam like a tank, people go, oh, that's cool. You paint a Gundam like a car, oh, that's cool. There's no wrong way to paint Gunpla or anything like that, because they're not real. They're not real world items. So you have that freedom. In that sense that you can paint it any way you like and you can't be wrong. Whereas you go to some of these IPMS shows and things like that, you paint something just a little bit off, you're the worst person in the world. But you paint you go in with a Gundam that's painted bright pink, which some people in that group have. That everyone's like, oh, cool, that's cool. Look at the paintwork on that. That's cool. But you do that on a tank and you get kicked out.
Right.
That's why I try and make sure everything that can be done with the Gundam, so people can go, oh, I can do it that way, I can do it that way. There's a million ways to get your kit done properly, and I try to make sure that everything can be done.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of, I've looked at them personally, and then I've also just recommended them to people as well, like people to check out other modeling videos about like how to paint aircraft and tanks
Yeah.
and things like that too.
It's
Really
I think
useful.
that's the thing with we found at some of the model shows, especially some of the hardcore model shows that you will go there. This is sort of, it probably goes back to the story earlier with Model Expo when we first started going to Model Expo. There was only myself and Alan and one other guy that had models in with Gundams, and we're lumped into sci-fi. And as the years have gone past, we've been promoting the hobby and getting more people into it. And as they've been doing that, we've actually split it up. So now it's a totally separate category. So we've got a Gundam mech category separate to the sci-fi category. Mind you, the sci-fi category is turning into a Star Wars category at the moment.
Yeah.
Because that's the most commonly available sci-fi kit apart from mecha now.
Yeah.
But for years, you have all the tank guys and the plane guys and the car guys walk past and screw their nose up and walk past all their kids' toys. Their kids' toys.
Yeah.
But now a lot of them are actually coming over and talking to us and spending time talking to us at these model club meets and shows and things. And they're actually interested in some of the designs because they can see the application from, they might be an armor builder, so they're building tanks and jeeps and things like that, and they can actually transfer that across to Gundam or even Machine Krieger, stuff like that. Or even the car guys walk past and they can see, and they'll see one that's been done painted fully chromed and stuff, and they get all excited because that's how they paint their models, and then they realise, I can paint that like that too. I've last few years I've been doing talks and that at Model Expo about the introduction to Gundam. So there's a video on my channel. I did one at GBWC, and it just goes through what it is, the instructions, how to read it, how to put it together, that sort of stuff. Because a lot of people are a bit confused. The usual thing, it's in Japanese, they don't understand. So you got to explain to them, no, you don't. You don't need to understand Japanese to build these things. And then a lot of these guys, who, especially a lot of the armor guys, are interested in stuff like the hard graph kits. So because they're the same sort of scales and things like that. So that's sort of getting them into it, and that's we're getting more and more people building Gundam in Australia because they can see the potential, if you can understand that. To do their style of modeling on a different subject.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it would be great if Bandai would kind of come back to the hard graph line someday.
I did hear the other day that they're doing a big reissue of the older stuff, so they'll be flooding the market again. So that Zaku head's probably going to be available again soon.
Yeah, at least they'll be good. At least some will be around anyway.
Yeah, but I wish they go back and do them because they are cool kids. They are really good.
It's a lot of cool stuff they could do. Who knows? I mean, I kind of doubt that they'll come back to that line exactly, but with the 40th anniversary coming up, they could do some new like big model kit of like a Gundam head or something.
Yeah. Well, they're doing those the ones that are in the pods at the moment, the Zaku heads.
Yeah, those what are they? Exceed, I think those are called.
Yeah, 1/35th scale or something like that. Yeah.
Those are pretty cool. And yeah, I've seen some people do some really cool work with those. For sure. One thing, I just want to take a minute here. Those of you guys watching in the chat, first of all, of course, thanks for watching. Some people have been wanting to ask some questions. Here in a bit, we'll open up to give you guys a chance to ask your questions. So for now, just if you have some questions, hang on to that, and then you can ask those to Scott here in just a bit. One thing I wanted to talk to you about as well is GBWC, because we talked about that a bit before. Yep. But I know you've also entered GBWC. What's been your experience entering? And
I enter every year without fail, because what started off as, because I said we started off 2010. We had was back then, so the Bandai Action Kit Universal Cup or something like that was a bizarre acronym. We had that at the Sydney Town Hall, and that was our very first one. We all travelled up. I got second place that year for it was the Zaku 2 with the GM kneeling down in front, and he's got the axe ready to chop his head off. The year after, we moved across to the Sydney, what's it called? The big convention, the Sydney Darling Harbour Convention Centre. It's only a few blocks down the road from the old place. That was when it was the Bandai Model Kit World Cup or something. But then just before we had ours, they switched it over to the GBWC. So that was around, and that was the year Mark Carlisle was the first time he entered. He won with that Dom with the lava sort of paintwork on it. That year I got second. Yeah, that year I got second as well, and that was with I had a GPO one, like mini hanger dio in the hillside base.
Mm-hmm.
The year after that, we had in the same place again. It was proper GPWC then. Mark won again that year, and he had that the Kshatriya with the big wings and stuff. You would have seen that everywhere. And I got second place that year again.
Okay.
With the Kshatriya, that was the Kshatriya night that I did. So it had the big, I turned the binder wing into the shield on the side and big flail and mace and stuff. And then the year after that, which was 2013, that was the year I actually won first place with the Suzabi, the big modified Suzabi with the big massive wings on the back with the Drasi I modified into the Walker with the GM on the base. That was the year I won, and that's the year I went to Japan. So that was 2013, and then 2013 there for the finals. Went to the finals in Japan. That was one of the best experiences in my scale modeling career that I've it's been one of the highlights.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I got to meet heaps of people. That was the first time I met Mr. Kawaguchi. I was a bit nervous then, but now not so much. You've heard the stories.
I've heard a pretty exciting story from Alan and seen the video as well.
Yeah, that was only a small part of it. I won't go into that on live YouTube.
Right.
And so that was the year I went there, and then I met a few cool people. So that's the first year I met Kevin Zhang, so K-Dash, and Ivan from Indonesia, and Francisca from Indonesia. Ronnie Foon, so David Liu, a lot of these guys that are very well known within the community, even like Mr. Joe, he was there. That was the year the Japanese fellow won with the really finely detailed Master Grade new. And I was only there for a brief time. We went shopping in all through Akihabara, so it was really, really good. And after that, come back 2014, I was working on it. I did a big deep striker with the XS, so I modified it all, made a big huge deep striker version of myself. That year I got third. And then the year before, 2015, I entered again with the Mega Size Zaku, which unfortunately didn't place, and which I think that one and this one last year was the Zagok, the Master Race Zagok I entered with. Didn't place anything again, but those two are probably my favourite build out of the whole time I've been doing GBWC. And they're the two actual pictures you put on the placeholder. Yeah. So those two, they're my last two entries. And this year, you've probably seen the pictures.
Yeah, I've seen some of your work in progress on that.
Yeah, I'm working on the Ifrit this year. It's sort of gone from being a competition where everyone's been trying to win. Majority of us now just go up there to have fun. It's a big social day, for a social weekend for us. We all go up, we enter our model competition, we all hang out, we all just have fun together. We all go out for dinner and have a few too many drinks and then try and watch through the last day. That's what happened last year. A lot of us were falling asleep because we've been up half the night drinking. But because it's melded into that, it's taken away that huge anxiety of trying to win this competition. It's turned into a big social event where a lot of us only ever see each other once a year at this event, because Australia is such a huge place. We're in pockets around the country, so we've got a Melbourne sort of contingent, which I'm sort of around the top of the head of sort of thing. Alan and I sort of try and do most of the events around Melbourne. And then in Sydney, you've got Ryan and the Hobbyco guys. They do all their events up there. And then in Brisbane, there's Josh and a few of the guys up there. Perth, there's a whole separate crew in Perth. Then there's Kirk in Adelaide and his group. And we all sort of come together for GBWC. So it's one big get together.
Is there a group in Tasmania?
Not really. When I say that, there's guys down there that build. There's lots of guys down there that build, but there's no sort of huge group that have build days and build meets and stuff like that, which is pretty. That's unfortunate because there's a lot of great guys down in Tassie that do build, and they are members of our group, and they do put up some great stuff. But there's not a lot of Gunpla down in Tasmania, unfortunately, because there's not many hobby shops down there either. There's only like one or two from memory.
The only reason I ask is because that's the only place that I've been to in Australia.
The coldest place in Australia.
Yeah, I went there probably about the worst time possible. I stayed there for about a month in June a few years ago.
Yeah, nah.
It wasn't, I think, probably the best experience of Australia, but it was cool.
We're in southwest. I'm living. I live about an hour and a bit out of just northwest of Melbourne, so in regional Victoria, which is the state.
Yeah.
And it's cold here. It's at the moment. It's not too bad today, but it's starting to get into winter now. So when it gets into winter, you'll be struggling to get to 10 degrees Celsius on some days, and it's not fun. It's not fun because, well, I don't know if you know, most of my mates know, but a lot of people don't realise that I run a gardening landscaping business.
Oh, okay.
So middle of winter, it's not fun.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that because, of course, I wanted to ask you about your SMS business that you're doing. But then, I didn't know if that's your full-time job or if you're still doing some other.
Yeah, I'm still doing. I've still got my at the moment. I've still got my gardening business, and that's the main bread and butter to make sure the bills are paid, and the SMS side is the stuff I'm building up to take over from the main business. Yeah.
So let's just kind of talk about the SMS, how that started, and when you got started with that.
I started it. Well, what it is it's the scale modelless supply, and it's the aim of the business is to make sure I can bring the right products to Australian modelers for an affordable price and making sure they're high quality. I started off. We started planning. Would have been January or so, December the year before. So like late 2015 to early 2016. Got a few samples tested out. The business itself started early April last year, so it's about 12 months old now. And in that time, their first release was at the start of June, and we predominantly do airbrush paints. And the airbrush paints are solvent-based lacquers. And the reason why I started up with the paints was because paints in Australia are expensive, especially solvent-based. Acrylic's not so bad because with solvent-based paints, there's obviously extra stuff to do with shipping and that sort of stuff because they're classed as dangerous goods, even though they're not that dangerous.
Right. Yeah.
In that sense, like they, excuse me.
Yeah.
So the whole point was, because by the time stuff gets into Australia, it's got to go. The wholesaler charges their price, and they charge a shipping price, and they charge the retailer charges their price, and et cetera, and it gets really expensive for Australian models. So stuff like Alclad's a good example. A bottle of Alclad here can get up to $20. Some of them can get up to $20 Australian. Majority of them are around $15, $16 Australian, and for a lot of modelers, that's a lot of money for a little amount of paint. So I thought, well, I'll look into seeing if we can make a local equivalent, because there's different products around the world. Everyone seems to be wanting lacquers, like solvent-based lacquers, all the time. Yeah. So I looked into it, and everyone wants Guy Notes, everyone wants Mr. Colour, everyone wants E7, everyone wants all these different lacquers, but they can't get into the country without paying a lot of money. So I sourced a local company that actually makes pretty much the exact same paint, probably a little bit less potent, if you can say that, a little harsh. And they're based in Sydney, and they actually make the paint for me to the right consistency and all that sort of stuff. So that got a few test bottles of that and tested it out, and then everything was good. Sent a few out to the mates, and that a couple of guys in Sydney had a try, and they good. So went full bore, got released 10 colours to start off with. So I actually do all the bottling, all the labelling, all the designing, I pretty much I buy all the materials and I put it all together.
Yeah.
So whenever you get a bottle of SMS paint, anyone, that's bottled by me. So start off with 10 colors. Sorry.
So just to interrupt you for a second, that company that makes the paint,
Yep.
what were they making that paint for before? Like for other scale models or for something different, or
It
what?
was actually the mix they had ready was actually for an architectural company. So they were making architectural. I only found this company by accident too, because I'd spent months trying to find the right company and could not get anyone to supply me. But I found this place by accident, and they just said, "Yeah, no worries. You know, we supply this paint to this architectural company that actually makes architectural models, and they used to airbrush that." I said,
Okay,
"No,
cool.
no worries. Send me a sample." All right, when I went from there, yeah. And then they just and any errors at all, like because they're so close to me, they're only like Sydney's, you know, a 12-hour drive from my house, but you know it's relatively close in terms in Australia. Because they're local, because they're in the country, any issues I've got, I can just get on the phone and say, look, this is a problem. They fix it up. Blah, blah, blah. That's why a lot of the paints have been so good, because I've tested everything out to start off with, and I've made sure the adjustments are made before they're actually released to the public. And as I said, we started early June last year. We had the first 10 colours. So the standards, your black, white, red, blue, yellow, green, brown, orange, and clear gloss and flat clear. They were the first 10. And then every month after that, I'll do 2 to 3, 4 colours plus extra items. So at the moment, we're sitting at just over 60 colours, and that's including metallics. There's 8 metallics, glow in the dark, UV reactive, so stuff that glows under UV light, and a couple of different effects and stuff like that, as well as stuff that we're doing, weathering pigments and other parts, paint clips and masking tapes and, consumables. Gone from, at the start, it was two stockists, so Hobby Co in Sydney and Andrew's Hobbies in Melbourne, which is the place that was owned before we do the build meets at. And gone from there. At the moment, we've got 12 distributors, stockists in Australia and 1 in New Zealand. So it's gone from 12 months. It's gone from a little company in to stocking 2 stores to being an international brand.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going really, really well, which is great. Because
it's plugging along nicely. It's chipping away. It's slowly building up. So more and more people are getting access through the shops and that, and I'm seeing it more and more in different groups outside of, because a lot of it's been advertised inside Gunpla Builders Australia, because it's you, the group as well. But it's a lot of people that have been using it because I've been aiming it at Gundam, and now I'm starting to move away from Gundam and doing colours that will be okay for tanks and cars and things like that. So a lot of those modelers are starting to use it now, and it's starting to gain a bit more traction.
If there's anyone that's living outside of Australia that wants to try it, is there a way to get it?
I'm looking at it at the moment, because our website at the moment is only designed to fit into Australian shipping and that sort of stuff, and we're doing a redesign of the website, and hopefully I'll be able to open it up to international. But the issue with international is it gets a bit iffy because they are solvent-based lacquers, and shipping does get a bit iffy. But I'm trying to work on getting a few more international distributors, so hopefully I can get them into few different stores. So I'm making a few contacts in the US and the UK, so fingers crossed I can get someone over there to take it, and if they do, then my international fans will be able to use it.
Yeah, for sure. I'll have to talk more about. I don't know who you're talking with in the US, but I know someone who maybe can help you out with that.
Yeah,
we'll talk more about it later.
That'd be great.
Anyway, so yeah, that's that sounds really well. And you sound very busy. Aside from your own business, and then you're doing all of that stuff. So, and then like your own just personal projects, and then trying to like be involved with the community with making videos when you can.
It gets busy.
Facebook.
That's why too. I don't do much videos like lately. Like every so often I'll do like 3 or 4 in a row, quick row. And that's why every so often I put up slideshows, even just to get the content rolling. But because I'm so busy running 2 businesses and running communities, and then I've still got family life and things like that to go around, it
Yeah.
doesn't leave much time for doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I can understand that for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, I think that's also important. I mean, just as like sort of, I guess, sort of like leaders in the community and sort of like people that a lot of people go to for questions and things like that. I think it's important that people do have to know at least to some degree about like kind of what the rest of our life is like, because
Yeah,
we're pretty busy.
that's
So
a lot of people don't realize. Yeah, you do. Like I try my hardest to make sure I answer every single question that I get, but
yeah,
as we talked about before, life gets in the way sometimes, and
yeah,
sometimes you just miss it, and it's just
yeah, of
that's
course.
unfortunate. But yeah,
Yeah, I try to be as cordial as possible, but yeah, when I'm like just have no time and so just want to answer a question, let's be like really short. And it's like hopefully people don't think I'm just like really rude or short with people, but like
yeah,
just trying
yeah.
to answer your question and move on. But anyway, so uh, you mentioned briefly about meeting Mr. Kawaguchi and having some experience with them. I just wanted to ask, just out of curiosity, if you had any other fun stories aside from Alan's dancing story
Oh,
that you might want to
that,
share.
that of all the people, that lady had to pick out of the crowd to dance. It had to be Alan.
Yeah.
We had
Yeah.
50 odd people in the room,
Mm.
and at this night, at this dinner, and out of all the Mr. Kawaguchi got up in a little bit of a dance. That was all funny. But then next thing you know, Alan's getting dragged up, and that's sort of the wrong person to be dragging up the dance. Uh, but
I
apart
mean,
from
you
that,
can't see much in the video, but I have seen the video, and yeah, it was.
yeah, you have to go back a long time. And it's actually in the Gunther Builders Australia group. But if you scroll through all the videos, it's there, and
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
um, but no, he's a genuinely nice guy. Like everyone
Mhm.
says, oh, how wonderful he is and how nice he is. He actually is genuinely that nice.
Mhm.
I didn't think he'd remember me after the first time
Mhm.
because we were in Japan and it was 2 years later. And I thought, oh, he won't know who I am. He can't remember.
Mhm.
Like, he sees that many people, he might not remember me.
Yeah.
And
Right.
this day I was up in Sydney a couple of days before the show, and I was in Hobbyco, the shop, and
Mhm.
I was getting texts from Ryan. He said, "Oh, Mr. Kawaguchi's coming this morning." So I just happened to be in there looking at the stocks and that, and he come walking down the stairs, and he just looked at me and just goes, "Oh, hello, hello, hello," and he remembered me straight up. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm a bit sort of, bit astounded that he actually remembered me. And then ever since then, he finds if he's at an event where I am, he makes sure he sees me, he'll come up and say hello, and he's just a
Mhm.
really genuinely nice guy.
Cool. I wonder. I
Yeah,
mean, obviously your videos are all in English, but have you talked to them, or do you know if he's like seen some of your videos at all?
yeah, he has. Yeah, yeah. It was a bit bizarre one day. I got notifications coming up, and it was like it was Mr. Kawaguchi's Google account shared one of my videos.
Oh, really?
I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. I'm like, okay. And then I found out later on that he has seen some of my stuff, and he knows the page and he knows the name and all this sort of stuff, which was a bit
Oh,
astounding because I'm just a bloke from Australia, so
yeah. Well,
yeah.
I think you, that's putting it very lightly. But anyway, yeah. I mean, I very briefly met him just at the expo last year, but
Yep.
yeah, he seems like a really cool guy. It
Yeah,
was
and
really interesting experience because he was just kind of like standing there. I would have expected other people would have been like going up to him and like wanting to say hello or take a picture or something, but like for 10 or 15 minutes we were kind of around that area. I really don't think I saw anyone talking with him at all, and that was like the opening night of the expo there in Tokyo, so it was like wall to wall people.
yeah,
Everyone's just looking at all the stuff and he's just like kind of standing there like that, like at the end of the expo. So yeah, it's kind of odd, but I guess maybe he's just not as exciting to the Japanese people because
oh,
he's kind
he's
of
probably just
around.
yeah, that's right. He's the face in Japan. He sort of goes to all these things, so everyone's probably used to him
Yeah.
over there. But
Mm.
it took us years to get him to come over because of
Mm.
obviously traveling, and it's at least, depending which way you go, it's at least 11-12 hour flight to
Yeah.
Japan from where you go in Australia.
Mm.
So it's a long haul flight. So
Sure.
can understand why he didn't want to come for a long time. But now that he's been here, he seems to want to keep coming back. So
Yeah, that's good. I mean, he has a good
yeah,
and Australia is a great place. Like I said, despite being in kind of the wrong place at the wrong time, I think when I visited there, I'm really looking forward to going back. And I've got a couple other friends there, and my wife lived there for about 6 or 8 months, something like that, in Sydney a few years ago, and she really wants to go back. We're considering moving there in the future.
Yeah,
possibly up in the air.
Yeah,
but
come on, move down.
Yeah, it's kind of at the moment between Australia and America, and obviously America would be much easier because I'm already a citizen there. But
yeah,
I don't know. We're considering Australia.
Yeah,
so and that's one of the great things is through doing YouTube and everything. Of course, I know, at least like through the internet, I know people all over the world. So pretty much anywhere I want to go, I can just like post something to them on a Facebook page, like, hey, I want to go here, or I'm interested to know about this part of the world, and there'll be people there that I can chat with.
I have the same thing. Yeah, I know people from all over the world.
Yeah.
A lot of my good friends over Facebook I've never actually met, but they're actually good friends on Facebook. But the crew that you hang out with, the Gunpla Talk guys and that sort of stuff, I've known them for a long time over Facebook and that sort of stuff. So I've got mates all over the world that can just I could easily just message and say, yeah, I'll drop by and say hello if I ever get there.
Yeah. I mean, the world's a big and yet very small place, right?
True.
So just in terms of the community in general, what are some things that you just like really love about the community, aside, since we're talking about that?
The Australian community in general is very close. Even though
Gunpla community in general, I mean,
Gunpla
like,
community,
in the world.
The Australian community is pretty. We're pretty close in Australia, as in general. Like, we're all pretty close. We're all mates. We all hang out. We all good stuff. And there's select groups from around the world that they're the same. They're all together. They're all close and lots of stuff. When you go to, you can see it around the world. You go to model shows and things like that. Everyone's sort of friends with Gundam. Everyone's friends. A lot of the other styles, they get a bit cliquey around other different groups, but always the Gundam. Everyone that builds Gundam is always friendly. Everyone joins together and they have a good time and that sort of stuff. You get the few Muppets, but but that's life. That's life in general. But 99.9% of everyone out there that builds Gundam, just builds model in general. They're pretty cool guys. So
yeah, for sure. And I think the other thing too, one thing that has been always kind of really not shocking, but I don't know, just kind of because just getting all sorts of messages and everything, people, I love your videos, or I have questions and messages like that. But the ones that kind of really stick with me is a lot of times get these messages from people who are like all sorts of ages. You'll get like, I mean, obviously there's a lot of like really young kids. And then like, but there'll be like other guys who are in like their 40s, 50s, or like, I was into modeling before, and then like I'd seen like a few videos about Gunpla on YouTube just kind of come up, and I got interested in it. And
we got a number of guys in our group, and they're in like in their 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Some are a little bit older, but majority of our group in Australia, there's sort of pockets. So you got the younger kids. But this is modeling in general too. So it's just like you get the younger kids, then teenagers you don't get much of because they're too busy doing teenage things, you know.
Yeah.
But then mid to late 20s they start to get back into it, and then usually between 30 and 50. That's the majority of our group in Australia. That sort of age, it's sort of everyone's sort of busy working, so they want to come home and do a hobby, and then they pick up scale modeling because they can relax at night building models and things like that. Yeah. So in Australia, we find that a lot of people, and they're the majority of people to have the disposable income to buy these kits. So,
that too.
Yeah,
for sure. I think that's a thing about the teenagers as well. Is like you said, aside from them being busy doing all their teenager stuff and all of that, is the money as well too, right?
True. Yeah, true. Unfortunately, parents don't want to buy stuff for the kids because they've got bills to pay and things like that. Yeah. But that's why. But then a lot of the kids, they're not really interested because they get to the age and that all their mates are doing other things like that. They get picked on for building models and things like that. It's too nerdy, all that sort of rubbish. But then they realised a bit later on in life that all their mates were wrong, and actually it's a pretty fun thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, my life story is exactly how it went for me. Like, I was into Gundam, and I had a handful of model kits probably when I was middle school, and then high school, college. Just was busy, skateboarding, girlfriends, all of that stuff. Yeah. So it's like just didn't really get into it, any money. And then I think it was in college, I went to Japan. That was my first time going to Japan. Just went there just for vacation. That was right after I went to Tasmania, actually. And yeah, it was just like, oh yeah, all this stuff that I used to love, and now I actually have some money. So, and I'm in Japan where it's all cheap. So just bought up a load of it. Have gotten back into it since then. So yeah. Just in terms of your own personal style, I mean, just kind of before we were getting to this interview here today, yesterday I was just taking a look at some of your builds on your page again, just kind of looking through those. And you have, I can't really nail down what I would say is your style, because you just kind of do everything. Right.
I find it the best to not do the same thing over and over and over again, because you get bored.
Oh. Yeah, sure.
So that's why I do Gundam. I do dinosaurs. I've been doing cars, a couple of cars lately, because mainly just to test the paint range. But I found out they actually are pretty fun to do, and so I've got a couple more sitting in the pile to do. I've done Machine and Krieger before, and I actually bought this one yesterday.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
So I'm probably going to get back into that one soon. And yeah, doing cool things like the bear guy and just different things. Because if you do the same stuff, you get bored. It's the same stuff over and over again.
Yeah.
People look at your work online. You put it up online, and people go, "Oh, it's the same stuff. It's the same. It's the same." If you do something different every time, not only are you trying to challenge yourself to learn new things, but you're actually trying to inspire other people to do different things. Because the amount of times I've actually done something myself, and then 2 or 3 months later, I see someone else doing a similar thing, and then linking back to me saying, "I got the idea from Ghost of Zeon," that sort of stuff. And it's a pretty good feeling knowing that you can actually inspire someone to do something different and do it well, if not better than the way I did it. And if they can do it, if they can take my stuff that I've done and upload it, and even just pictures or tutorials or whatever, and if they can take that and make it something better, it means a hell of a lot to me.
See, that was what was your downfall when it came to GBWC, because like you say, you were going second place, first place, but all that time you were teaching everyone else how to do it. And then
funny you should say that. I've been told that a few times, that I was putting too much information online, and people were taking from that. And then actually the year that I didn't upload anything was the year I actually won. And then after that, I've sort of eased off a bit. It's like I've won that. I'd like to win it again. Yeah, no worries. But if I don't, so I've been there. I've won it once. So, but it's also good. In terms of our community, to have other people do better every year. So it's not the same. For several years, it was myself and Mark winning second, first. And people are starting to get a bit, it's the same guys every year. And then the last couple of years, Josh won 2015, and Lance got second. Last year, Lance got first. So that sort of mix up is actually good for everyone, because it's not the same people all the time.
For sure. And like you said, you've had that experience, and now you're enjoying kind of a different aspect of it. And it's good
priorities
that people
change.
are able to enjoy that. Hang on, my wife's calling me. 여보.
What coffee do you want?
Americano, 샷추가. Okay, bye. Okay, taking my coffee order. She took my son to the coffee shop. All right. Sorry, what were we talking about? Anyway, GWC. I think I'm sure there's a lot of reasons, but I just thought that was kind of funny that I'm sure you're teaching everyone else how to do that. I mean, that's been great to spread that, but if you're interested in winning, it maybe wasn't the best tactic.
True, but at the same time, if I can help someone, then that's all that really matters. To be honest.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Is there any part of is there any part of the process that is really kind of your favorite thing to do?
Oh, probably the best part that I enjoy the most is probably putting it all together once I've painted it.
Just like the final step.
I enjoy snapping. I enjoy like cleaning up. I enjoy putting it together and test fitting, and I enjoy the modifications. But I think the most satisfying part is when you've painted all the pieces and you start putting it all back together, and then you can finally. Sometimes you think, as I'm painting, I'm thinking, oh, I don't know if this scheme's going to work. You know, it's a bit off. But then as soon as you put it all together, you get that satisfaction. It's like, oh, you're finally getting somewhere. And the color scheme works and that sort of stuff, and that's probably the favorite part is when I put everything back together after I've freshly painted everything, and then I can move on to the detail and the decals and that sort of stuff. But that's usually my favorite part of the whole build.
Yeah, I know, because like just after all that work on everything, you're just really anxious to see like how it's gonna look, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what I was doing with the Afraid. The out of box colors is those gaudy blue, fluoro blue, and fluoro stuff. I went with the darker color. It's probably a bit hard to see.
It's very dark at the moment, but I know from the photos it's not as dark as it looks. No,
but I went with the a field blue, German grey, black, and hull red on the chest and stuff like that, and I thought, oh, maybe a bit of lighter grey around the trims and stuff.
Well, red, that's exactly the same color that I used on that part of mine too.
Yeah, that's actually good. There's the shoulder. You can see the shoulder I'm working on with the decals. So that's.
So I assume there's going to be more too, that you're going to be working on some diorama or something as well.
Just a small base, because I'm running out of space in the model room to actually put any of these huge bases, because the GBWC, the restrictions are 50 by 50 by 50 centimeters.
Yeah.
A lot of people try and build them as big as possible, and I've done a few that are borderline, like 48 centimeters square sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they don't fit in the shelf very well once I bring them home. And I've run out of space because I've got like 70 something completed models in the cabinet over here. But
have you ever wanted to or tried to sell any of your completed stuff?
I did it. I've been asked a couple of times. One person asked, I've got a big dinosaur diorama thing I did. One person asked me that once. I had on display at one of the conventions a few years back, and one lady came up and offered to buy it, and I couldn't part with it because it's one of my favorites. But generally I just build it and chuck it in the cupboard, chuck it in the display cabinet, and it sits there for a while, and then I'll look at it one day and I'll just go, I'll strip it back and repaint it. I did a commission once many years ago, but I got burnt big time, so I haven't really worried about doing commissions since. Plus I don't have time.
Yeah, and, that's no good.
And there's I've got a few stuff that's actually on display down at the hobby shop in Melbourne that we go to, because I ran out of space here. I thought, they're big displays. They're sitting in boxes. Most people might as well enjoy looking at them. So there's a couple sitting down at the hobby shop in Melbourne in their display cabinet. So there's a couple around that aren't here. But I don't really sell them much because I do it more as a hobby rather than trying to make money out of it. Whereas I try to make money out of the paints instead.
I can totally understand that. It just for me, it's just I think the same way. It's not really. I mean, money you're getting from it is nice, of course, but like, I don't know. I guess if I had like a really big, nice display case as well, it might be a different story.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I just have 2 painted kits of mine here. I mean, all the rest have either just sold or given away, because I just really enjoy the process and everything. And after that, like just taking some photos of them, and like I could have the photos and just didn't really care as much about keeping them personally. But it just,
yeah. Well, I've got builds that you put so much time and effort in, you just don't want to part with. Then other ones are quick throw together 5-minute job and just to muck around, just have a bit of fun with, and they just get chucked in the bits box or whatever afterwards. But Because a lot of the stuff I do, I put so much time and effort into. I sort of have a bit of trouble separating from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can understand. For those of you guys watching in the chats, if you do have any questions for Scott, you can go ahead and ask your questions. I want to let you guys, there's 70 some odd people watching currently, so you guys hanging out there. Again, thanks for hanging out. And there's a few friends there. Alex and Jim are there. Strider Prime's there, another YouTuber of our community. So if you guys want to ask any questions for Scott, just point those out there. If you can put it in all caps or something, at least so I can pick it out really easily of the chat there, would be helpful. But yeah, so okay, well, maybe one popped up here. I didn't expect one to come up so quickly. I was going to ask you another question here, but can you use a flat coat on gloss paint and vice versa?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Gloss obviously makes it shiny. Flat will make it flat. So when you're actually building, when you get to the point where you're doing panel lines and decals and things, water slides and things like that, you need your gloss coat down to get that part right. And once that's done, you can either go back over the top with a gloss coat or the flat coat, depending which finish you want. So, and the opposite way, if you put a flat color down and you need to do your washes and water slides and stuff over the top of the flat coat, you can put a gloss over the top of that. So you can do that step and then go back over the top with your flat if you wanted a flat finish.
So basically you can put either or on.
Yeah, it just depends on the type of paint. So if you've got the same brand, same type, that's fine. So if you're using, say, Mr. Hobby, use Mr. Hobby flat to clear, use the same. If you're using something like Mr. Color, then you can even use my brand SMS over the top of that, either way, because they're both lacquer based. If you're doing something like Vallejo or MIG, those polyurethane based stuff, stick with their brand only because they don't play nice with solvents. Which, even though Mr. Hobby and Tamiya acrylics, they say they're acrylics, they are water. They can be thin with water, but they're actually solvent based, so they don't play nice with the polyurethanes as well. So just got to make sure you use the same type of paint. And just be wary of the rule about putting lacquers over the top of acrylics, because lacquers when they do cure, they do get hot, and as they heat up, they can craze the paint underneath. So if you stick with the same type of paint, yeah, no dramas.
I think it's kind of the best things to just stick with the same type, same brand as much as you can. But of course, for people living in different parts of the world, that can be tough, the availability of things.
Yeah, but if you can at least stick with the same type of paint. So if you're using lacquers, stick with lacquers. If you're using acrylics, stick with acrylics. Yeah, etc., etc.
What are your thoughts on Pledge Future? That's like that.
Hit and miss.
Yeah.
I've used it fine before, but it's very good at self-leveling. It's you get a very nice finish out of it, but it can be easily affected by humidity. The amount of times I've sprayed it and it's sprayed on beautiful, but as it's dried, it's been too humid or too dry, and it's actually crazed it and cracked it. One of the guys, I think it was from memory, I think it was Mark Carlisle. He did one. He's actually, I think it was one he won GBWC with the first time, the Dom. He said he coated that in Future and he wrapped it all up to take to the finals, which were in Hong Kong at the time. And when he pulled it off, the Future was still tacky underneath and actually pulled off with the. So it can be hit and miss. It's perfect for if you're doing cars and planes and things like that, and you want to do the windows and the canopies and stuff like that. Yeah, it's great for dipping. So if you dipped it into it, you get a perfect, nice, crystal clear finish. But airbrushing, I'm not so keen on. I can do it, but it's not perfect every time. It's a lot easier just to get a clear coat and just do the proper hobby clear coats.
Yeah, I just personally started using it about a month or so ago, and from my experience so far, I've really loved it. But yeah, it has been very neutral in terms of like the weather. Yeah,
some here. Yeah, as you can see, I haven't used that much in the bottle. I've had this bottle about 2 or 3 years, and it's a lot of the time I just use it to do small detail. It's really good for when you've got super glue and you're gluing on your metal parts, and you get that frosting effect sometimes from super glue because of the humidity. You actually get the brush and hand brush that over the top of the frosting. It actually removes the frosting.
Very good to know.
Yeah, so it's more so with metal parts. If you remember the Sazabi I did a couple of years back with the nail polish, that everyone's the blue one with all the metal parts set in it. I did the metal parts after I painted everything, and that started everything started frosting up because it was in the middle of summer. It was getting humid, so everything was getting sticky and yuck, and it all frosted around the metal. So that's when I got that out and I brushed it on, and it just completely, just as I was brushing, it disappeared. So that's how I sort of worked out that it removes frosting.
Very good to know, because actually I think it would have been maybe a month or so ago. It would have been a little while ago. I think I was talking with the Gumpletalk guys about that just in our chat, because I was wondering about that. What's a good thing to do in that case? That's good to know. Interesting to know. Actually, one question I was talking about dipping stuff in the future is one thing that I'm probably going to try. I recently got that PG Phoenix kit.
Yeah.
Fortunately,
the fingerprint magnet.
Yeah, I gotta still see if I can find some cotton gloves or something for whenever I get to that. But one thing that I was concerned about with that is when I do the decals on the gold parts, I'm really nervous about spraying those because they're quite large parts, so it's going to be difficult for me, maybe not for people, to get spraying a nice clear coat on top of that. But someone recommended to me just after putting on the decals on the gold parts and then just dipping them in the future. I think that would work.
Possibly depends on the size of the piece. You got to be careful when you dip. You can't let it pull up too much because you'll have to obviously hang it up and let the excess drip off. But you just got to make sure you don't get that extra pooling around the edges and that. But it should. I can't see why it wouldn't work.
Well, unfortunately, some of those pieces are very large, so I'll have to see.
Being a perfect grade, that would be.
Especially some of the very large parts on the shields on the backpack. So we'll have to try. Anyway, for now, it seems like kind of maybe the best option, but we'll have to see. It'll be really shiny for sure. That. All right, so let's see. Someone else asked here. Grounded Phoenix asked, "What's your favorite Gundam series?"
Probably anything the early Universal Century stuff. At the moment, I'm really liking Thunderbolt. But all-time favorites probably 0079, Zeta, 08 MS Team, that sort of era. I really don't like build fighters. It's not my generation's thing. It's for the kids. But I don't mind a little bit of Seed. I've watched a bit of Seed and I watched a little bit of Wing. I couldn't get into Iron-Blooded Orphans at all. I watched 2 or 3 episodes and I just sort of gave up on it. It sort of wasn't my bag. But I do like the older UC stuff. Even at the moment, as I said, Thunderbolt and even Origin. The Origin series is pretty great. Even though it sort of retcons a lot of the stuff that was in the original series, but yeah.
Oh, so you're just a UC elitist, eh?
Yeah, pretty much. Zaku's.
Yeah, I mean,
Zaku's.
The name says it all.
Pretty much.
Let's see, someone else here. They asked quite a few questions here, so I'll try to get through these as we can. This is maybe an easy one for you. Jim wanted to ask if you've tried Alan's jerky.
No, I don't want anything that Alan's touched with his hands. No, actually, no. I've seen it and I've heard about it, but I don't do well with spicy food, so I'll pass on that one. But he did actually have yesterday to our build meet. He actually did bring a tub of gummy bears soaked in vodka. So I had a couple of them. So I've had something that he's touched.
That sounds interesting. As well.
There was cheap stuff. There was like $20 bottle from Aldi's. So that's a cheap supermarket here.
So that made it extra good, right?
Yeah, that was extra strong.
All right. Well, if I ever get to Australia, I'll have to see. about trying some of that. Someone asked here, what grade do you prefer working with? And I think this one is as well, trying to nail down what would be your particular style. I think you pretty much just kind of work with everything, right?
Yeah, pretty much everything, but favorite scale is pretty much master grade. In Gunpla, it's master grades are good because they're bigger and more detailed, bigger, bulkier, and they're easy to work with. High grades are great because they're quick, easy, cheap. Like if I want to test something out, I'll grab a high grade off the shelf or go buy a cheap little high grade.
Yeah.
Like some of the old high grades now are about $10 Australian. So the old Zagok and that sort of the very first high grades, they're around $10 to $15 Australian, whereas the newer stuff's up near 30. So they're good to grab every now and again just to practice with. But the majority of stuff I do like building are the master grades. Even the Re 100s is pretty much the same thing. Just the Re 100s don't have a frame, so that sort of scale is pretty much my favorite when it comes to Gunpla. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think. Just trying to think back through some of your completed builds that I've seen. I don't think I've seen many or any perfect grade kits. I'm sure you've painted a couple.
I've only built one, and that was just to help the guys out from Hobbyco because they were displaying at the Melbourne Toy Fair, not this year, last year before. And they needed a display piece, and I snap built a perfect grade Banshee for them just to help them out. And that's the only time I've ever built a perfect grade. Even though I've got a perfect grade Wing Zero, the one in the silver box with the wings and all, which I actually got when I went to GBWC 2013. They have the prize giveaway, the Christmas gift giveaway at the end of the night, and Mr. Kawaguchi gave me that one, pulled my name out of the hat, and I won this perfect grade. But it's still sitting on the shelf. I haven't built it yet.
Yeah,
that's the only interactions I've had with perfect grades is snap building one and one sitting on my shelf.
Yeah, I think kind of especially for maybe beginners to the hobby, perfect grades get this kind of like very kind of elite kind of status. When personally, I don't really like working with them kind of as much as high grades.
People get a bit discouraged. Oh yeah, 1 to 60 scale. They got 1,000 odd parts. They're complicated. But at the end of the day, each scale is just each model in the Gunpla range, like 144, 100. They're pretty much the exact same. They're built the exact same way.
Yeah, sure.
They just have more pieces. They're not difficult. They just got more pieces.
Yeah. It's nothing to do with difficulty. Yeah, I agree. I mean, you'll have like rare kit every so often that where like some parts are a little bit more complicated than others, but generally, I agree. Here, Gunpla Ray asked, what do you think of Gundam IBO model kits? You already kind of said what you think of the anime. It's not much, but how about the kits?
Some of the grunt stuff looks pretty cool, like some of the shoulder designs and things like that. But Barbatos, not my kind of thing.
Not much. I don't think I've seen you build too much of any of those.
I've done one Barbatos, one of the high grades. When that very first one came out, we had a group build on Gunpla Builders Australia with the Barbatos, and I did one with, just modified it with parts from the high grade Guyan and made into a sort of a knight sort of look. But that's the only time I've ever done anything with IBO.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched like the last couple episodes, but I watched most of the series, and it's kind of for me not as in high regard as many people, but the kits have been relatively cool for the most part. They've been fun to build.
They're different. They're different, but it's the same. That each their own. But they're not so.
One thing I think that's great. No, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say the grunt. Also, all the grunts are good. So like some of the designs, some of the shoulder designs are pretty cool, and some of the leg designs are cool. But yeah, just those Barbatos ones, I just wasn't a real big fan of.
And one thing that the kits have been great. I think the kits have been really good for beginners for the most part.
Yes, they have, yeah,
for sure, because like they're designed in a way, and between Bandai and Sunrise and their kind of designing of the mobile suits with the model kits in mind. I don't know how much of this was on purpose, but a lot of the kits have very few seam lines and stuff on them, things that can be difficult for beginners to work with. But
yeah, that's just in general now with a lot of Bandai stuff. They try and hide all the seam lines. The The only seam line that really still annoys me is the seam line on the Zaku shoulder, that one that goes right in the center, and that's just sort of you can't do nothing with that except fill it. That's it.
The origin line is strange for that.
That's just the way they can't actually, obviously they can't mold it in one piece because the way it attaches to the shoulder itself. But eventually, hopefully they'll get rid of it.
Yeah, right. Those Zaku, those Origin Zaku kits are amazing, but yeah, they have just a couple of really difficult to work with seam lines on there that can be kind of annoying.
Yeah, but that's when being a modeler comes in. That's when you start doing the modeling stuff and do the problem instead of being a builder.
Strider Prime asks, are you a fan of the P Bandai kits, and which do you get, or which was your favorite?
No, I think they're a bit of a rort. I understand the business sense. I understand why they release them, because people do want these kits, and obviously there's not a big enough demand for them to release these kits. So they're obviously in a smaller run when they produce them, which means that's why they're a premium item, which means that's why there's a higher price, because there's more cost involved. But at the same time, some of them are just recolors. It's like, no.
Yeah, the
recolors stuff
especially, right?
Yeah, but stuff like that, the GM2 Canon, that was pretty much, it was 90% master grade GM, but it had the Canon parts. But then there's some stuff that there's some, I think was there a Reebok, the sleeves version of the Reebok at one stage? You can't get that at
actually
stuff like that.
The RE version here that I just snapped up.
So there was the 1/144th version of that. I can understand why they'd want to do limited releases of certain kits. That's fine, but when they start doing just recolors and selling them as premium items, it's a bit of a stretch. And there was one of the Origin ones that was a P Bandai that was pretty much, the top half was the prototype Zaku 2 or something, and the bottom half was a prototype Dom, and it was just like they put the two kits together. I mean, you could just buy two kits for less than the P Bandai price and put them together and get the same kit. So stuff like that makes me a bit, but then you got stuff like the only P Bandai thing I do have, I've got the heavy weapons set for the Hainu, but they've just released that as a normal kit anyway. So as a whole big master grade with the whole thing. So it's sort of I'm a bit. And there's a few guys that are very public about their feelings in Australia with P Bandai. So and I know
Australia, like with most of the world, is where you're paying even more for that kind of stuff. So.
And there's licensing issues too, because as you know, P Bandai is only allowed to be sold in Japan, Hong Kong, and Singapore, I think now. But they're not technically meant to be sold outside of those countries. So but they still manage to get here through other means. But it's that's why. And then you pay a premium on top of the premium, which just makes it for a model kit. It's just like. I mean, if you've got that much money to waste, waste all you like. But not me.
Right. I'm very just kind of neutral. I don't really have any strong opinion about it either way. I mean, for some of the kit, it just is a matter of, if you really like that product which is made, then buy it, and if you don't care about it, then don't buy it, or if it's too expensive for you, then don't buy it.
That's the general just in Australia too, because people don't realise how much they used, and just your normal everyday kits used to cost nearly twice as much as what they do now. And the way the imports and all work now, they're brought in. We get them 2 months later than Japan release, because they all come over on a boat, and when they come over on the boat, that keeps the prices down, because because air freight's just ridiculous for the amount of stuff that comes in. So that's and then people don't realise that they're complaining about, like, they can get this kit for this amount of money in Japan, but then they add the postage on, and it costs pretty much the same as what it would cost if they just waited 2 months to buy it in the shop here. And then by the time it actually gets sent over from Japan or wherever, it's going to be 2 months anyway. In some cases, like 4 to 6 weeks. So a lot of people just sort of get a bit funny about it, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot there's plenty of other things to get upset about than what kits are coming out as premium Bandai kits or not. So anyway,
exactly. There's a lot of worse things happening in the world than what Bandai is doing with their kits. So
I mean, it's fun, and I'm totally guilty of this, of course, as well, as just spouting off about, oh, this is a stupid release or something like that on my Facebook page or something, and that's fine. But you get other people where they take it just to a whole other degree of going crazy about it. So there's been quite a lot of other questions here in the chat, and I'm sorry, guys, that we don't have time to get through all your questions for now. But if you guys do have any questions for Scott, of course, Scott's all over everywhere. You can ask your questions directly to him pretty much anywhere. Like you said, he and I both try to answer as many questions as we can. So just if you have questions for here, I just get asked. So before we wrap up, Scott, do you want to talk about just where people can find you? I mean, it's everywhere.
Yep. Obviously, the website goes to Zeon.com, which unfortunately doesn't get updated much anymore, but it's still there, so you can still go and see all the old stuff.
There's lots of cool stuff to see there. So
yeah, there's still stuff on that website that I haven't transferred across to YouTube or the Facebook yet. So there's still stuff on there.
Yep.
Lots of photos from all the events I've been to, all the model expos, all the model competitions. Can you really see all that sort of stuff's on there? I think the last gallery on the website itself was the Suzuki car, but yeah, but everything else, including everything that's on there, is on the Facebook page. So for all the latest stuff I do, all the galleries, all the stuff, just check out the Facebook page, facebook.com/the Ghost of Zeon. Instagram, same username. YouTube, same username. And of course, the paints.
Yeah.
The Scale Modeler Supply, if you can see that. Scalemodeler.com.au, that's modeler with 2 L's, because that's how we spell it in Australia. So SCALEMODELLER.com.au, and the Facebook page is under the Scale Modeler Supply as well.
Yeah, so basically, because people have been asking in the chat, even though I'm pretty sure it's in the title of the video and the description, people have been asking in the chat, what's the name of your Facebook, or what's the name of your YouTube channel? Guys, just the Ghost of Zeon.
Ghost of Zeon. Yeah, just search Ghost of Zeon and I'll come up. Yep, I'll come up. And one more link, Gunpla Builders Australia, facebook.com/groups/Gunpla Builders Australia. That's our group within Australia, and that's the officially, if you can say official, Bandai do sponsor our group. So so anything to do with GBWC, anything like that is official if it comes out of our group. And anyone's welcome to join from anywhere around the world, and we're a bunch of friendly, happy people that are happy to help whenever we can.
Yeah, definitely. And you don't have to be Australian to be a member of the group, of course. So as you guys,
no, that's right. Our core base are Aussies, but we're happy to accept anyone from around the world, because in the end of the day, we're all the same. We all like the same stuff, so we always all just hang out together and have fun.
Yeah, for sure. And just want to mention again, for those of you guys who missed the earlier part of the video when we were talking about Scott's SMS products, if you're living outside of Australia, currently they're working on getting
currently we're working, trying to work out a way we can get it out of the country without having to charge an extra premium on top. But if you follow all our pages and stuff, we'll make announcements when that comes about.
Yep. Is there an do you have a Facebook? I don't know if I've seen a Facebook page specifically for the SMS.
Yeah, that's under the Scale Modeler Supply. So it's facebook.com/the Scale Modelers Supply, and then it comes up with their page. Okay,
I'll put a bunch of those links in the description of the video too, as well, for people who are watching later can see that stuff. But yeah, just thank you a lot, Scott, for taking the time. Like I said, I know
thanks everyone for watching. I hope I didn't make too much of a fool of myself.
Fine, relatively tame. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you do still have any other questions for Scott, just get at him on Facebook or YouTube, whatever.
Hit me up on Facebook. Just hit me up wherever, and I'll do my best to help when I can.
Yeah. All right, Scott. Thank you again, and see you guys next time. Bye.
Thanks.
See ya.